Katie Holmes giving rare comments about her daughter Suri.
She makes every day great and awesome and better, and I know myself more because of her.
Most celebrity kids cling to their famous last names for a shortcut to power. But for Suri Noelle, she decided to set hers on fire. After 12 years of living in a concrete fortress, the daughter of the world's most powerful movie star has surfaced in an unlikely place, and she is breaking headlines. Is this the start of a public war or something more sinister? First, let's start with the program that caught the world off guard and sparked a massive firestorm. The graduation bombshell. The United Palace Theater in Washington Heights was filled with the usual nervous energy of a high school graduation in June 2024. The students of LaGuardia High School, a place famous for producing some of the best artists and performers in the world, were ready to receive their diplomas. Among them was a teenager the world had watched grow up through the lenses of 1,000 cameras. For 18 years, the public knew her as Suri Cruise, Tom Cruise's daughter. However, as the commencement programs were handed out and the names of the graduates were read, that famous last name was nowhere to be found.
Suri has a new moniker. During her high school graduation, the former couple's daughter is listed among her fellow graduates without her father's surname, instead being referred to as Suri Noelle.
Instead, the program listed her as Suri Noel. This change was far from a simple mistake or a printing error. In the world of high-stakes celebrity branding, every move is noticed. For a young woman about to enter adulthood, this was her first chance to tell the world who she really is. Dropping the name Cruise was not a sudden act of teenage rebellion. It was a clear, calculated statement about her identity. By choosing Noelle, which is her mother's middle name, Suri was publicly aligning herself with the woman who raised her. She was walking away from a name that carries immense power in Hollywood to start a life that is entirely her own. As anyone would expect, the reaction from the public and the media was almost immediate. People realized that the biological daughter of Tom Cruise had officially cut the most visible tie she had to her father. This move felt final because it happened at such a major milestone. Most children of famous actors use their last names to get ahead or gain attention, but Suri did the exact opposite. She chose to be seen for her own merits in the heart of New York City. This city had served as her fortress of privacy for over a decade, and now it was the stage for her independence. Also, Suri's father was missing while the graduation ceremony was happening in New York. Tom Cruise was thousands of miles away in London. He was spotted at a Taylor Swift concert having a time of his life. You see, this visual contrast was impossible for the media to ignore. On one side of the ocean, a daughter was quietly stripping away her father's name as she stepped into her future. On the other side, the world's most famous movie star was leaning into his public persona, seemingly disconnected from the reality of his daughter's life. More so, analysis of the name Noelle shows it was more than just a tribute to Katie Holmes. It was a sign of a total shift in family loyalty. It showed that the life Katie built for her daughter in the wake of her divorce was successful. Suri was no longer a shadow of a famous father. She was a young woman with a vision and a name she chose herself. While the name change shocked the headlines, the seeds of this separation were planted in a high-stakes escape over a decade ago. It was a move so secret that even the most powerful people in Hollywood never saw it coming. The Golden Child and paparazzi fever. To understand how we got to that graduation flyer, we have to look back to the very beginning. In 2006, the world was obsessed with Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes' relationship. So, when Suri was born, it was a massive media event. For the first few months of her life, she was hidden from the public. This led to yield rumors and conspiracy theories because people were so desperate for a glimpse of the child. When she finally appeared on the cover of Vanity Fair, it became a cultural explosion. That one photo shoot turned a newborn baby into a global superstar before she could even crawl. It practically set the stage for a childhood lived entirely under a microscope. You see, the internet took this obsession to a very strange level. During the late 2000s, a blog called Suri's Burn Book became incredibly popular. This book was written from the perspective of a toddler who was a snobbish fashion critic. Even though it was satire, it showed how the public viewed her as a tiny adult rather than a kid. Her life was filled with things most people only dream of. Reports claimed her wardrobe was worth over $3 million, allegedly. Suri Cruz was frequently spotted in New York and Los Angeles wearing miniature designer heels at only 3 years old. This sparked huge debates across the country about modern parenting. People wondered if she was being forced to grow up way too fast. But then, Katie Holmes famously defended the footwear, explaining they were actually children's ballroom dancing shoes, and Suri loves them. From another spectrum, living as the only biological child of Hollywood's most successful couple meant living in a total bubble. This means that Suri did not have a normal routine. Instead of public parks, she had closed-off playgrounds. Instead of school buses, she had private jets. The pressure of being the golden child was heavy. Every single time she stepped outside, dozens of photographers were waiting to catch a mistake or a tantrum. The constant camera flashes created an environment that felt like permanent surveillance. It felt as though she was being watched every second. And perhaps this intense lack of privacy is a huge reason why she values her anonymity so much today. She learned very early that the world felt entitled to see her every move. Also, the expectations for her future were sky high. People assumed she would follow her parents into acting or become a permanent fixture in the socialite scene. Yet, the luxury and the designer clothes were only part of the story. Behind the gated mansions and the private security, her daily life was being shaped by a set of rules called Scientology that most Americans would find very confusing. The Scientology shadow and the Sea Org fears. While the world saw a movie star father and his famous daughter, the reality inside their home was very different. In church, Tom Cruise was much more than a member. He was seen as a hero by the church leadership, and practicing Scientology was not a hobby for the family. It was the foundation of everything they did. This meant their daily life was guided by strict religious rules. Their house was filled with staff members who were deeply loyal to the organization. These workers observed everything that happened and reported back to the church. And it created an environment where Katie Holmes felt she was being watched every second. She realized that her marriage was being managed by people who had their own plans for her daughter. As Suri reached her 6th birthday, the pressure from the church began to intensify. One of the biggest concerns was the process of auditing. You see, in the world of Scientology, children are viewed as adult spirits in small bodies. They are expected to follow adult rules much earlier than most kids. And this process involves a person holding a device called an e-meter.
The Hubbard electrometer, more commonly known as the e-meter, is a religious artifact used to measure the state of electrical characteristics in the static fields surrounding the body. The device produces a small electrical current and measures the subject's electrical resistance to that current.
That measures their thoughts during a series of personal questions. For a 6-year-old, this was often called security checking, because the questions are meant to find out if a child has any hidden bad thoughts about the organization or their parents. For Katie, the idea of her young daughter being questioned in this way was a major breaking point. There were also deep fears about a group called the Sea Org. This is the most dedicated and strict section of the church. Members of the Sea Org often sign contracts that last for 1 billion years and live under very hard conditions with little contact with the outside world. Rumors started to spread that there were plans for Suri to join a special school or a boot camp that would prepare her for this lifestyle. And the thought of her daughter being moved into such a disciplined and closed-off environment was terrifying for a mother who wanted a normal life for her child. Even so, the biggest threat of all was the policy known as disconnection. This rule states that if a person leaves the church or is labeled an enemy, members who stay must stop all contact with them. Katie knew that if she tried to leave and was unsuccessful, the church could influence Suri to cut her out of her life forever. She was living in a home where her security team and her staff were more loyal to the church than to her. She felt the walls closing in as her daughter's future was being decided by religious protocols instead of parental love. And realizing her daughter was about to be indoctrinated, Katie Holmes began planning the most daring exit in celebrity history. Katie's master plan. Katie Holmes understood that she could not walk out of her marriage without being noticed because she was surrounded by staff members who reported her every move to the church. To escape the church process, she had to act like she was in a spy movie. She used burner phones to talk to her legal team so her calls could not be traced. She even rented a secret apartment in New York City, weeks before she made her move. Her father, Martin Holmes, a very experienced lawyer, worked behind the scenes to make sure every step was perfect. He knew that one small mistake could ruin Katie and Suri's chances of freedom. Now, choosing where to file for divorce was a massive part of the strategy. Filing in California might have led to a long battle over joint custody. In that state, Tom could have easily demanded that Suri stay involved in his religious practices. It was widely speculated that Katie sought to prevent Suri from joining the Sea Org, a specialized group within the church that requires intense commitment. So, New York laws gave Katie a much stronger position to protect her daughter from those influences. While Katie was setting her plan in motion, Tom was in Iceland filming a movie called Oblivion. He reportedly had no idea that his marriage was ending. When the news went public, the shock was felt across the entire film industry. He was caught off guard while his wife was already hundreds of miles away in a city where he had no control. The legal team moved so quickly that the divorce was settled in only 11 days. This is almost impossible for a couple with so much money and fame.
Katie Holmes and Tom Cruise have reached a settlement less than 2 weeks after she filed for divorce. Katie's attorney tells People magazine an agreement has been signed, and they're thrilled for Katie to embark on the next chapter of her life.
Martin Holmes made sure the agreement was airtight to protect Suri's future. The contract had very specific rules. It stated that Suri could not be exposed to any Scientology-affiliated schools, events, or interrogation sessions. It became the ultimate victory for Katie. She had managed to build a legal wall around her daughter that the church could not cross. The settlement ensured that Suri would have a life free from the pressures that had defined her earliest years. Once the divorce papers were signed, their lives changed overnight. The gates and private security of Los Angeles were replaced by the busy sidewalks of Manhattan. It was a new beginning that felt grounded and real. Katie Holmes had successfully pulled off the most daring exit in Hollywood history. Katie won the battle for custody, but the cost was a total vanishing act by the world's most famous father. 12 years of silence and the financial contract. Following the divorce settlement, a very strange dynamic began that would last for over a decade. According to the divorce rules, Tom Cruise was legally required to pay $400,000 a year in child support. Records show he stayed consistent with these payments until the day Suri turned 18. He also covered her medical expenses, insurance, and education costs. Normally, he was fulfilling his role as a provider. However, there was a massive gap between the money being sent and his actual presence. While the checks arrived on time, the father himself was nowhere to be found. This led to many rumors about why they were never seen together. Some people talked about a 100-yard rule or secret legal bans, yet the reality was likely much more personal. In the world of high-profile divorces, especially those involving the church, a parent who leaves can sometimes be treated as someone to avoid. Because Tom stayed deeply involved in his faith, and Katie walked away to raise Suri in New York, their lives became two different universes. The last time anyone captured a photo of them together was during a trip to Disney World back in 2012. Since that afternoon in the theme park, there has not been a single public record of them sharing the same space. While Tom Cruise denied abandoning his daughter in 2013, citing intense filming schedules as reasons they haven't seen, sources suggest the Church of Scientology's policies on disconnection from non-members may have contributed to their long-term estrangement. Now, growing up with an invisible father is a heavy thing for any kid, but it was even stranger for Suri. She had to navigate life without him, while seeing his face on giant billboards and movie screens all over Manhattan. He was a global icon who was everywhere and nowhere at the same time. To help her daughter handle this, Katie Holmes built a very strong support system. She created a small village of trusted friends and family members who protected Suri's privacy. They made sure she had a childhood filled with museum visits and subway rides rather than celebrity parties. Katie took on the role of both parents, ensuring Suri never felt like something was missing. Suri eventually reached a point where she stopped waiting for a relationship that wasn't there. She learned to rely on herself and the people who actually showed up for her daily life. The financial contract was just business, but her real life was happening in the classrooms and parks of New York City. She was no longer defined by who her father was, but by who she was becoming on her own. As she grew older, the little girl in the designer heels transformed into a resilient teenager with a plan of her own. Growing up in NYC. After moving to New York City, Suri spent her formative years at Avenues, the World School. This campus in Chelsea is famous for its elite students, providing a space where she could be a person instead of a news headline. Teachers and classmates treated her as a student working on her assignments. This sense of normalcy was exactly what her mother wanted. The school focuses on global awareness, which helped Suri see a world far beyond the Hollywood bubble her father lived in. She was able to make mistakes and learn without every moment appearing on a tabloid cover. Taking the subway became a normal part of their routine, and it was not for show. It was a strategy to make sure Suri understood how the world actually works outside of a movie set. People in New York have a reputation for leaving celebrities alone, and this allowed Suri to walk to school or meet friends without a heavy security detail blocking the sidewalk. She learned how to navigate a city, which gave her a sense of power over her own life. Also, this lifestyle directly influenced how Suri presented herself. The high-end couture and miniature heels from her toddler years were replaced by a relatable New York aesthetic. She became known for wearing oversized jackets, classic sneakers, and outfits that looked as though they came from a local market. Her style was described as the cool girl look, often seen in baggy jeans and low white tops. Along with her style, her interests shifted toward the arts. She found a passion for school theater productions. She even contributed vocals to her mother's film projects, but she did it quietly. She was not looking for the Hollywood spotlight. She was looking for a way to express herself. Performing on a stage in a high school play allowed her to explore different characters while staying true to her own identity. Throughout these years, the bond between mother and daughter became their strongest defense. It was an us-against-the-world mentality that helped them survive constant media attention. Katie protected Suri from the harshest parts of the news, while Suri stayed focused on her studies. A major part of this success was her group of friends. It is rare for a celebrity child to have a circle that never leaks stories to the press, yet Suri managed to find people who valued her friendship more than a paycheck. They created a safe space where she could grow up without being judged. These friends were the people who knew the real Suri Noelle long before she made it official. They were her true village in the middle of a crowded city. This quiet upbringing was the perfect preparation for the moment she would finally take control of her own narrative. Isabella, Connor, and the split legacy. To see how different Suri's life could have been, you only have to look at the paths taken by her older siblings, Isabella and Connor. They were adopted by Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman during their marriage in the 1990s. When that relationship ended, the two older children chose to stay with their father and remain active members of the Church of Scientology. Today, they are grown adults who are deeply involved in the organization. Isabella lives a relatively quiet life in London, while Connor has been seen at various church events, amongst others, with his father. Their loyalty to the belief system their father follows has never wavered. The relationship and the lack of a bond between Suri and her half-siblings are often discussed by those who follow the family closely. There is no public record of Suri ever spending time with Isabella or Connor in over a decade. This silence is likely due to the strict policy of disconnection. Since Katie Holmes chose to leave the church to protect her daughter, she and Suri would be viewed as people who are no longer part of that world. This has created a strange reality often called the two families theory. It appears that Tom Cruise lives two completely different lives as a parent. In one world, he is a supportive father to his adult children who share his faith. In the other world, he is a stranger to his youngest daughter, who lives in the heart of New York. Moreover, Tom's public support for Isabella and Connor is a sharp contrast to his total silence regarding Suri's milestones. He has been seen at sporting events with Connor and has expressed pride in Isabella's artistic work. Yet, when it comes to Suri's birthdays or her graduation, there is nothing. This is especially significant because Suri is the only biological child of Tom and Katie. In many ways, she was treated as a royal heir. She was the ultimate prize in a cultural and religious tug-of-war. The organization had massive expectations for her future, seeing her as a natural successor to her father's legacy. The internal family dynamics suggest that Katie and Suri's exit was more than a move away from her father. It was a choice to leave behind an entire lineage Katie no longer recognized. Suri probably watched from the sidelines as her siblings followed a plan that she wanted no part of. By walking away, Katie was not only protecting her daughter's privacy, but also her identity.
Unending love that you have for your mother and for your child is universal, and every mom can relate to that.
She refused to be a character in a story written by others. She wanted to be the author of her own life. With her turning 18, the countdown began for the final legal severance. Legal rebirth and the Noel identity. Turning 18 in America is a massive milestone for any young person. For Suri, it meant the end of a very long and complicated paper trail. The moment she reached this age, the legal ties to her father were officially cut. Those child support payments of $400,000 a year came to an end. Any remaining rules about custody or where she was allowed to live vanished into the past. She became a legal adult with the total power to make her own choices without a court or a religious organization watching her every move. This was the moment she had been waiting for, to step out from the shadow of a famous name. From the look of things, the choice to go by Suri Noel is a major detail in her journey toward independence. Noel is the middle name of Katie Holmes. By adopting it, she is telling the world exactly who she views as her family. This decision will shape her professional future as she enters the world of arts and fashion. Most children of celebrities use their famous last names to get an advantage. People often call these individuals Nepo babies. So using a famous name can open doors and secure meetings with the most powerful people in the industry. However, Suri did the exact opposite. She rejected the most valuable brand name in the movie business. And the move basically shows that she wants to succeed on her own merits rather than her father's legacy. This change is a powerful psychological act of freedom. It honors the parent who stayed and did the daily work of raising her. For 12 years, Katie Holmes was the one attending school events and navigating the challenges of life in the city. Tom was a global icon on a movie screen, yet he was absent from her daily reality. Choosing Noel is about finding a voice that is not tied to a celebrity brand. Other celebrity children have started making similar moves. We see this with the children of other major stars who are choosing to drop famous last names to find their own identities. It is a growing trend among a new generation that values personal truth over a famous lineage. There is also a clear message here for the Church of Scientology. For years, the organization likely viewed Suri as a key figure for their future. By walking away and changing her name, she proved that their influence over the next generation is not absolute. You cannot control someone who chooses to live in the light of the real world. She proved that a person can break free from a high-stakes environment and build a life of their own making. She is no longer a prize in a religious tug-of-war. With her new name and her head held high, Suri headed to one of the most prestigious universities in the country, Carnegie Mellon, and the path to fashion power. In late August of 2024, she was spotted moving her boxes into the dorms at Carnegie Mellon University, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This was a major move away from the bright lights of Manhattan. She chose to attend the university's world-renowned School of Design. This program is incredibly competitive, and it is not a place where people go to be seen. It is a place where people go to work. For a young woman who spent her life under a microscope, this choice was a massive declaration of independence. She was looking for a challenge that had nothing to do with her parents. Suri's interest in fashion is not a surprise to those who watched her grow up. For years, she was a fixture in the New York fashion scene. She spent her teenage years observing the top designers in Manhattan and was often spotted carrying sketches or visiting fabric stores. This background gave her a head start, yet she still wanted the formal training that only a top-tier school could provide. You see, Carnegie Mellon is known for a very rigorous work ethic. Students there often joke that they never sleep. This is a huge contrast to the socialite lifestyle many expected her to follow. She could have easily picked a university in Los Angeles or London where she could stay at the center of the celebrity world. Instead, she chose a city known for steel and grit. Life on campus has been an exercise in staying under the radar. She navigates the dining halls and study groups as a regular college student. She wants to be known as a classmate rather than a tabloid subject. Even so, the cameras have followed her to Pennsylvania. Paparazzi still try to catch a glimpse of her walking to class or hanging out with friends. Navigating these first steps of adulthood is hard enough for anyone. Doing it while being tracked by photographers takes a special kind of resilience. She has managed to keep her private life quiet despite the global interest in her every move. The future of the Suri Noelle brand is bright. By focusing on her education, she is ensuring that her future success belongs entirely to her. She is not leaning on a famous last name or a Hollywood connection. She is putting in the hours at the design studio and earning her place in the industry. Her vision is clear, and her path is her own. As of now, Suri is no longer the girl on the Vanity Fair cover. She is a woman with a vision and a future she built herself. The legacy of the Great Escape. This transformation serves as the ultimate proof that Katie Holmes played the long game and won. For over a decade, Katie built an invisible fortress around her daughter, and looking at the confident young woman Suri has become in 2026, it is clear that every calculated move was worth the effort. On the other side of this story stands Tom Cruise. He remains one of the most successful movie stars in history, yet his public image has a massive hole that no blockbuster can fill. His total absence from his daughter's life for over a decade is the one mystery gap in an otherwise perfect career. It is a silence that speaks louder than any high-stakes movie stunt. While he continues to reach for the stars on the big screen, the connection to his own child remains a ghost of the past. Today, the woman known as Suri Noelle lives in a world of her own making. By choosing her mother's middle name as her own, she sent a clear message about who she considers her real family. To the headlines, it might look like a scandal. To those who followed her journey, this looks like freedom. She is finally the architect of her own story. Do you think Suri made the right choice by dropping the Cruise name to start fresh? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more content like this, tap on the next video on your screen.